everyone, Barbara Zinda here with Better Together Coaching. Let's get into the topic of what happens when you have a day at work where everything just flows and it's easy and pleasant, and at the end of the day you actually have spare energy left over. And then when the opposite is true and it feels like every task, every conversation is forced and you're depleted at the end of the day. What's the difference? Why does this happen? Well, for me, I'm going to get into the flow zone. The flow zone for me is brainstorming, creating action steps. Sounds like a coach, right? When I'm coaching, it feels effortless, and so effortless that when people ask, how do you do that? I really kind of struggled to come up with an answer because it's just what I do. I took an assessment that gave me a language to help me understand what is unique about me when I'm coming from a place that's natural and I'm using my instincts and strengths to do a task. And we'll get into how you could do this too. So, the assessment's called the Colby A Index, and if you've taken it before or you know about it, you know that an 8 in quick start is the instinct to jump into ideas and create momentum. That is a great language for me to understand how I have an ability to move from idea to action quickly. And it's not just a quirk, it's my gift. Naming it helped me to see how powerful it is in conversations with my clients. I've done a ton of research on topics like motivation, fear, why we do the things that we do. And I'm going to bring in some science and some scripture. Because for you, your strengths are probably a little bit different than mine. And that's why when someone tries to research something for hours and hours before jumping in and doing it, I get a little frustrated. And then the opposite is true when I'm ready to act and others are like, hold on, we got to build the plan more, right? We all have different instincts. So let's get into the science. And so first research or nugget that I'll share, Dr. Carol Dweck did some research that shows believing you can grow actually changes how you take action. I love that. It's the belief, it's the faith, it's just believing that you can grow. This is the growth mindset we talk a lot about, not fixed, but growth, right? And when studying motivation, where it comes from, it doesn't just float into your day. It happens when you're taking action. Even better if you're taking action with purpose. And if it's coming from your instincts, that's a perfect equation for a really good day. It's also a great way to move past fear. If you're afraid of something, a lot of times what you're afraid of is a really big thing. And when you take a step towards it, the fear gets smaller because you know that it's not as big as maybe we made it in our minds. Our brain defaults to caution. So knowing that is kind of the first step, is when you feel that switch from growth mindset to fixed and caution. This is where you can choose to have an abundant mindset. I love abundance versus lack, right? We have more than enough of everything we need. And when we shift into abundance, we see the possibilities instead of limits. We literally create new neural pathways for creativity and courage. Good science stuff, right? Let's tie in some scripture. So I picked Proverbs 3:5-6 for this topic, which is trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him and he will make your paths straight. So when we trust how God wired us, we're all different, right? This is a big part of why I always say we're better together. I need someone who does the planning and the research. I need someone who's great at structure because I want to just go and come up with ideas and, So when we trust how God wired us, we stop trying to fit into someone else's mold and we start stepping into the one he designed for us. Beautiful, right? I also learned on this Colby Index that I have a 3 in follow through, which is a low number. And that means I don't naturally thrive with rigid systems. I pivot, I adapt, and I sometimes skip steps. That's probably why I created the Better Together Planner, not just for my clients, but for me, because it gives me the flexible structure that keeps me accountable to follow through on things that really matter. What matters the most? What's the one thing I'm focused on today that's going to move the needle? So finding out things you're great at or what your strengths are, and then other areas that you might not have a huge strength in, helps you to create systems or surround yourself with people that have different strengths. And because when we recognize where we need support and tools and then lean on each other, we really are better together. I'm going to leave you with 3 encouragements for the week. First, notice when something is feeling effortless for you this week, the things that you just do without thinking, and name those as your strength. Second, find one place where you need support or structure, like I did with my planner, and lean into the idea that we're better together when we help each other follow through. And then third, stay open to abundance. Ask yourself daily, what if this works? What if there's more than I imagined? All right, everyone, there we go. Instinct and flow instead of forcing the task. I hope you got some nuggets out of this. If so, share it with a friend. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.